Welcome, everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera, psychic medium. I'm a Taino Arawak, and I own a school called the Ivy League Psychic Academy. We train people here internationally, online, in everything from psychic mediumship development to Reiki to tarot to astrology to numerology, you name it, we do it. Now, this class tonight is called Depression, What Your Therapist Won't Tell You. And I've been doing one free mini class per week since the quarantine began, since the pandemic hit. If you want to see a full list of classes, you need to go onto YouTube and check out the playlist. Now, today I'm going to be talking about depression in a very different way than what you have been able to hear in therapy, from the doctors, from the science backing it. But we are also bringing in a special guest after I'm done going through a little bit of curriculum here. And this special guest is Christina Del Rey, our astrologer here at the Ivy League Psychic Academy. Christina, how are you?
Awesome. I just have to say that Fighting the Dark class, that is going to be amazing. I'm going to make sure I'm here for that, but I did not know any of that stuff until you taught me all of that. So that is like so helpful in this year, 2020. So helpful.
So much in 2020. I know I agree with that. So, you know, there's so much transition going on with people. And I know we're both going to be talking about that tonight too. But, you know, we're looking at the dark attacks that happen to us as being opportunities as well. And that's what's really hard. If every time we're about to level up in life and, you know, we get a smackdown, it makes people not want to bother. But 2020 and 2021, huge years of opportunity for growth. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a great one. All right. So Christina Del Rey, our astrologer, will be talking when I'm done with this curriculum about planetary shifts that cause depression. So much so, even to the point that it can irritate people to a point of suicide, or it can make them seriously contemplate whether or not they can keep going. And what I'm really looking forward to with Christina's teaching tonight is not only where it comes from and how it might be affecting you based on your chart, but also how long these things last. Right, Christina? Because we've talked about this repeatedly.
Yep.
When you don't see an end point, you can just want to give up. And that just increases the depression level. So that's the nice thing about planetary movements is they can be measured. All right. Yeah. So looking forward to that.
That's key.
All right. That's key. Yeah, for sure. All right. So let's get into this. Also, Paul, my lovely producer. How are you, Paulie?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah. And this is a fun time. We're live on TikTok and YouTube. It's a very, very fun night.
Yep. We're live on TikTok doing a class for the first time. Again, if you guys get bumped, go on over to YouTube at Ask Ivy. And YouTubers, good to have you. We do have a membership button if you want to join, and we do accept donations here on both sites. Okay. If you also want to hit that button, Paul will be taking your questions and comments, possibly throughout the curriculum if it fits in with what Christina and I are discussing. If not, at the end. So please start, you know, talking about your experiences. We appreciate the interaction, any questions that you have, and let's get started. All right. So depression, okay, what your therapist won't tell you. The first thing I want to explain here, a little disclaimer, I cannot prescribe or diagnose, nor am I trying to. This is not about how your therapist has failed you. This is a situation where therapists are in a clinical position. And often, even if they believe what I'm talking about today, and they often come to me and say that they do, and that they want to understand it more, and that they wish they could say this to their patients, what happens is there will be penalty for that. So they can't just come out and talk about these things openly. We can, okay? And it is so important that we understand these other elements that are contributing to your depression, because sometimes the therapy isn't working. Sometimes you can't find your triggers. Sometimes the medications just don't work, and you're getting misdiagnosed over and over and over again, and there's no healing because we are not getting to the root issues. And these will always be at the root of any depression problem, even if you are diagnosed accurately. And if medications are working for you, this can only help. We must always, whether it be depression, anxiety, ADHD, we have to understand the energy that lies underneath, okay, at the root, and manage that energy. So let's talk about different things that are causing your depression that are not going to come up with your doctor or your therapist, and things that the medications cannot fix, okay? Energetic influencers. So number one, let's go to category number one. Empathic energy. Those of you who feel that you're empathic, you've heard this word. It's become very popular in the last 3 to 4 years. I have a class, I have a website up on my website. There are many classes broken down for different levels of empathic people, or empathic people in different situations. If you have a lot of burnout at your job, if you have an empathic child, whatever it might be, if you're a protester or an activist. So you go to IvyRiveraEmpathicEducator.com for the full training on empathic ability. Don't have time to get into it today, but I'm going to touch on it now. Paul will put that in the comments below that link, okay? So it's called empathic awareness. Now, if you have empathic ability, and we all do to some degree, there are 4 different levels, and you need to understand which level you're on, because the higher it gets, the more intensely you're affected. Let's talk about some empathic influencers around us that cause depression. Vampires, people who come to you and latch on to you. They tell you too much of their private business, TMI, all the time, letting you know their personal affairs, trying to get your attention, or even just standing next to you, trying to come in close proximity to feed off of your positive energy. Now, a lot of people are doing this involuntarily. Don't forget, it is your responsibility to protect your energy at all times. Be mindful of who needs to talk to you and why people are coming in so close. Now, if you have clients, patients, if you're a chiropractor, if you're a massage therapist, if you do Reiki, if you're a healer, you're a reader, you're a counselor, a teacher, you are constantly coming into contact. And yes, technology counts. A Zoom meeting does not negate this. Okay, it can actually increase it. As you're coming into contact with others, especially if you have to physically lay hands on them, you are going to pick up on any negative energy within their energy field. And if you're empathic, you're absorbing it into your own body. Guess what? Now you have a depressive disorder. Okay, so blocking techniques, the ones that I train you in the empathic awareness class that I mentioned, will help you to start blocking that out and reduce your depression so that you can continue to heal and teach people. Another empathic issue, and this has been increasing a lot lately, because there is a lot of drug and alcohol abuse off the charts right now due to the pandemic and racial injustice and elections. There's just a lot going on internationally. We see a severe increase in alcoholism and drug and alcohol abuse. Even people who were clean for long periods of time no longer are. What happens if you're empathic is that you pick up energetically, you absorb into your own body and energy field their issues. So what happens when someone's using? Well, they're really foggy, cloudy in the head. They can't think straight. They have severe dehydration. They have a ton of stomach issues. They are literally deteriorating. Think of what alcoholism does to the body. Think of what it does just even to the liver. Thank you for your donations. Okay, beautiful. We appreciate it. Think of what it's doing to that person, and then just imagine that you are energetically taking that into yourself, and now you are suffering the consequences. The first way to really know that you're around someone who is using or abusing alcohol is a headache, usually like a stabbing pain in your temples, but it can come in many different forms. And then you would feel extremely exhausted, probably sick to your stomach, and then depressed, a depression that you just can't seem to shake. You have to be careful about the company you keep. And even though we love others who are suffering with abuse, if we're going to be around them, we have to use the blocking techniques. that are taught in the empathic awareness class, and we must cleanse. You have to do something regularly, like Epsom salt in the bottom of your shower that can pull that negativity out from your body. But if you just let it build and build and build, and this is what therapists and doctors know but can't say. This is what they say to me. I can't say this, but I agree with this. If you continue to just let it build, you're going to end up with disorders, anxiety, depression, ADHD-like symptoms, things of this nature. Okay, what else happens with empathic ability? Telepathy happens. If you are at the 3rd and 4th level of empathic ability, you develop telepathy. Telepathy is hearing other people's thoughts. Well, nobody wants to be in that cesspool. Most people aren't mindful. Most people aren't controlling their energy, and they're not deliberately vibing high. They're just reactionary and vibing pretty low. So when you accidentally hit the 3rd and 4th levels of empathic ability, and you're accidentally picking up on the thoughts of everyone around you, that's going to cause depression for you. So it's no wonder that you often feel better alone. You feel really great with personal space. And something like the pandemic, when the quarantine hit, may have resolved a lot of your depression issues because you couldn't be around people anymore and pick up all their junk. Just something to think about. Okay. You can also pick up telepathically on other people's true intentions. So while we want to say blood is thicker than water and, well, you can't cut family off and things like this, you may also be able to hear their thoughts and understand that maybe they don't care as much as they should. You know, maybe people are thinking negatively about you, and that takes a toll on your self-esteem. That causes depression. Maybe you are with a spouse or a lover who is cheating behind your back or who is not being completely truthful, but it hasn't come out yet. And then they make you think you're crazy or you're paranoid. All of this causes depression. Okay, so these aren't obvious triggers that will come up in your therapy appointments. These aren't things that you can measure because you have no proof yet. Empaths also attract narcissists and sociopaths more than any other group of people, research shows. Now, if that's true, what do you think that does for your sense of safety, for your sense of confidence, ability to trust your own gut instinct, ability to put yourself out there after dealing with that kind of abuse in your life? You know, that is a major source of depression. So again, if you're empathic, empathic awareness training will help you a lot on the website. All right. I want to move on to psychic ability. I did want to also explain real quick, though. Empathic ability and psychic ability are a lot alike. And when I talk about people that are empaths, you have to understand that you're automatically mediumistic and you're automatically psychic. One of the transfers from empathic to psychic ability is something called clairempathy. Clairempathy is the ability to feel what other people are feeling, physically pick up on physical impressions based on what the other person is physically suffering from, illnesses, disease, ailments, pain. Okay, but again, with that telepathy, that is really transferring over into some of the psychic abilities we're about to talk about. Okay, so overabsorption of other people's stuff, physically, mentally, emotionally, cause of depression. Now, with the psychic ability, again, something they will tell you in therapy, you know, isn't real. You can't take a pill for that. There's no cure for mediumship or psychic ability. Okay, you have to accept that these things do exist. And as long as the scientific and medical community is going to negate them, we will remain ill. We will remain medicated and trapped in a vicious cycle of degradation. So let's look at psychic ability, right? One of the things that we pick up on psychically are the winds of change. If something is about to happen, we get this anxious, uptight, nervous feeling that the other shoe is going to fall. Now, you don't know. It could be something great. You know, maybe your friend's about to call you and tell you that she just got engaged. Maybe you're about to win the lottery. Maybe you're about to get a promotion at work. You don't necessarily know what it is, because most people are not trained in their psychic ability because we've been told that it's evil and destructive. So we don't know how to read it. The physical body reads everything, positive or negative, that is coming in as a change, as a destructive force. So even if it is amazing, you naturally become uptight. You naturally become stressed and depressed because something is coming in to attack you. That's what your mind is basically telling your body. When in actuality, it's just a shift in energy field, okay? That change could be full of huge opportunity. This is another reason why people don't gravitate toward opportunities, or they don't see that when one door closes, 5 more open. They have a negative mindset. People are reactionary and people don't like change. We're not willing to work with that energy. It's all bad. And it isn't all bad. It's just growth. It's just opportunity for something new to come in. Okay. We also have something called, I did not name this. I don't care for this title. I didn't name it, but it's what it is. It's called Messenger of Death Syndrome. Messenger of Death Syndrome is something a small portion of psychics have, or so we thought once. I think more people have this than we have realized over the years. And I think that due to the pandemic and the Great Awakening, more and more people are stepping up and saying, I have Messenger of Death Syndrome. What is it? It is knowing when someone is going to die. It's knowing either through a vision, right? Your clairvoyant ability, like watching a movie in your head, having a vision, a flash, an image of it in your brain, or typically through dreams that someone's going to pass away. You may also know that someone is going to be diagnosed with a disease, or that they're sick, or that a car accident is going to happen, or that some type of apocalyptic war or battle is about to occur. Okay, so some examples of this are like, I saw 9/11 and I got out from New York City with 9 days to spare. And my partner at the time worked in both towers. He never would have lived through that. You have to learn that the things that you see, while they may not always be preventable, are important for you to look at, embrace. You need to heed those warnings and help others where you can. Now, Messenger of Death Syndrome typically causes people to be very depressed, straight up bipolar disorder, and very religious based, a lot of religiosity there, you know, a lot of really harsh criticism against things like psychic ability, because they really do feel that there's something demonic about the abilities that they have. Let's talk about residual energy. For anyone who's ever watched the movie The Shining, I love to use this reference because Danny, the little boy who sat with the cook at the hotel in the beginning of the movie, they had a discussion about residual versus intelligent energies, and how intelligent energy, ghosts, paranormal activity, right? Demonic activity, whatever it is, how that would be really bad. But the cook tried to tell Danny, no, it's like burnt toast. It can't hurt you. It's not real. Well, sometimes it is real. And as a psychic, whether it's real, it's active and intelligent, or it's residual, it can't hurt you. It's like a broken record playing on a time clock. It just repeats itself. Whether it's one or the other, it doesn't matter. Because again, you physically have one reaction, and that is anxiety and then depression. And what can we do other than learn where it's coming from and what it means? We should all be educated. But in the meantime, if you're very psychic, you're getting triggered all the time, because you're not only triggered by residual or intelligent energies around you, you are also triggered by objects and atmospheres. If you live in a brick house, if you work in a brick building, if you're near train tracks or water, all of these are conductors and they carry old energy. Objects carry energy. Now, we know this in the empathic training. We talk about this a lot. And we know this from research. Empaths are told, be careful what you touch. It can cause you to have OCD and other things like that, because you could feel the energy from objects Okay, so if you're the kind of person who goes in to get a roll of toilet paper and you have to dig 15 rolls back obsessively because they all have weird energy, that's why. Now, all of this can be absorbed and cause depression for you, or it can trigger your level of paranoia and make you wonder if you can trust yourself and some other, people and circumstances around you, which can also activate the depression. And I just want to say this, right? And again, we're not here to prescribe or diagnose, but sometimes when you get in a pattern of relying on others to fix your depression, or pills to fix your depression, your doctor, your therapist, whatever, to fix your depression, the right book to come out, the right tool to come out, we have taken the power out of our hands. We need to put it back where it belongs. You need to understand that you can own this. And if you understand these different categories and what Christina is about to talk about, I'm telling you, this is where the breakthroughs are. So I totally get that. The way some of you guys said you feel lonely, isolated, for sure. And the way you're waiting for your life to start. How do you start without the right tools? And they have been so buried and hidden from us for so long. It's such a shame. All right. We're going to get to some questions here in a second, but I do want to get through the third category. And then we're going to take those questions and shift over here to Christina Del Rey, our astrologer, who will be talking about the way planetary shifts affect your depression level, even sometimes pushing so hard to a point of suicidal tendencies and whatnot, and how all of these things are on a time clock, right? So planetary shifts can be predicted and you can know when it's going to end. So that part of the talk is really going to help us a lot. Let's look at mediumistic abilities, category number 3. So if you have mediumistic abilities, no, it's not a gift. No, it's not special. It is something we are all born with. It is part of our roots. And if you don't believe me, notice that spirit doesn't really care whether you believe them or not. They still come around. They still try to communicate. They still exist, whether you believe them or not. Now, when a spirit comes in, tries to communicate with you, it causes depression at different times and typically anxiety. It can also cause a profusive ringing in your ears, a tinnitus, or a feeling of pressure in your ears. So what happens when spirits come in from the light? They bring in a healing energy about them, and that can be a lovely thing. That can give you answers to your problems. They may channel through you so that you give a healing message to someone else, and it can even lighten your depression. But not all spirits choose to go into the light. So we also have earthbound spirits. Earthbound spirits don't have the protection of the light. They are constantly dealing with more severe negative entities in the universe, and they tend to all pool together. When an earthbound spirit comes into your energy field, the first most common thing to feel is a sharp stabbing pain in the chest, the throat, the ear, and an intense feeling of depression. So this is a depression that just does not go away. And should an earthbound spirit or another negative entity decide to latch on to you and become an attachment, or ever try to become a possession, your depression is going to spiral more and more and more out of control, and rapidly. It usually starts with a depression, and then it starts to really affect your sleep severely, where you have constant nightmares, you never get rest, and then it becomes really debilitating, during the day. So when we are taking medications for that, or we're going to therapy for that, and we still can't find the source, you may need a cleansing. You may have an attachment, heaven forbid. You may even have a possession. These are not things that anybody can clear up for you. You can get help. I offer paranormal consultations. We have a free mini class on how to cleanse up here on the playlist on YouTube. I also have a class called Hauntings, Clearings, and Detachments, a 2-hour training course to help you get control again. But nobody can fix it for you. You have to be involved in the healing process, in the cleansing process, and you have to maintain a clean energy in your space and with yourself. So while we can help you get there, it is not the type of thing that you can just rely on a pill for. So we do want to look at negative energies and if they are coming in causing problems for you. If you live in a haunted house, God bless you. If you live on haunted property, if you're on Indian burial ground, if there was ever a war where you are, if you are, sometimes even near cemeteries can cause it. But if you are near a location, or if you are on a piece of land or in a residency or a workspace that you are sort of trapped in repeatedly and there's paranormal activity, that is probably the root cause of your depression. So a cleansing will be necessary. Okay, we can also have as mediums, and remember, again, we are all mediums, just to different degrees. You can have a real sadness, a real sense of depression and heaviness from the divide that is caused by death. So we have loved ones that have passed away. Others around us have loved ones that have passed away. And I've seen a pretty significant increase in this lately. A lot of my students, a lot of my clients that don't know their light workers, that don't know their mediums, have become very, very depressed lately. Well, due to COVID circumstances, due to not only real actual death and suffering, but also the fear, the panic of pending death and suffering, we are all depressed. And these spirits that come through that maybe intend to bring healing messages, lovely as they may be, they still carry that sadness. And that sadness will always be triggered in you, not only from the spirit, but also from the living loved ones. So it's a lot to handle. I would say that this is even worse if it is a sudden death, if there was not a proper goodbye, if it was traumatic in any way, that's going to increase your depression as a medium. Right. So these are things to keep in mind. I also want to say, in summation here, it is so important that we get in touch with our intuitive intelligence. We need to normalize intuition. You are not crazy. Those meds are not necessarily going to work. Can't prescribe or diagnose. But hey, if it's not helping, if the therapists and doctors can't figure out what's going on, if we can't figure out where your triggers are coming from, if it doesn't make any sense, it is because we have been told we are never to look at these categories. It's demonic, it's toxic, it's bad juju, you're a witch, it's going to bring in bad karma, it's punishable. That's ridiculous. This is health. This is balance. This is well-being. This is knowing oneself. This is connecting to your ancestors, your guides, God, the universe, your roots. All healing is ultimately going to break down into energy. And to clean energy, you must understand these categories. All right. So don't let people tell you whether you're gay, you're a minority, you're a woman. Don't let anybody influence you being you. You're a psychic, you're a medium. Come out. We all need to stand up at this point. We are in a revolutionary time in this awakening worldwide to stand up and say, we're done hiding. We're all coming out of the closet and we are going to start doing what is best for us. Okay. So if we collectively do this, it will get easier faster. All right. I do want to see if there are any questions here I can answer before we move on to Christina.
Yeah. Anna asks, how do you know if you are hearing from a spirit or if you're just creating voices from the past? With like residual energy. Residual energy?
Don't we have a free mini class on that one?
Still Small Voice?
Still Small Voice, I believe, is the title of that free mini class. Yeah, so that we also have another one called Emotion versus Intuition. Christina, didn't you come on for that? Christina Del Rey, our astrologer, was on for that one too. Emotion versus intuition. How to know if it's you or if it's really your gut instinct. So a lot of people will say, well, how do I know if it's my imagination? How do I know if it's actually a message? How do you know? Well, you have to train. You have to undo all the nonsense that you've been told your entire life. So we have a psychic mediumship course going on right now, or another one coming up in the spring. It's also available through video download that trains you in depth in these areas. But yes, also the free mini classes. We have other questions?
Yeah, we have one from Bernadette who says she's wondering if PTSD might fit into this lesson.
Hi, Bernadette. Yeah, absolutely. So with the PTSD, you know, you have a lot of triggers in these three categories because one of the reasons that we have an increase with intuitive intelligence is trauma. So I break down, again, in the empathic awareness training, I break down all the different reasons that you may have an increase in your abilities. And one of them is a traumatic experience or neglect or abuse. Okay, so again, this is why we see our minorities being highly sensitive. This is why we see members of the LGBTQ community being highly sensitive. Our natives, anyone who's been born to drug addicted or alcoholic parents, anyone who's gone through a neglectful situation, you know, any kind of trauma, anyone who's been born with a disability, all kinds of situations can cause that PTSD or that PTSD-like response. And it's really a sign that you have all three of these categories, psychic, mediumistic, and empathic, affecting you with your depression. Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Mm-hmm. Any other ones?
No, but Mermaid 2891 says you are 100% accurate.
Very good. Good. Glad it's helping. Glad to hear it. Thanks for the support. All right. We do want to move over here to Christina Del Rey, our astrologer here at the Ivy League Psychic Academy. Christina, how are you?
Great. I feel like I just needed that refresher. That was great. So everybody, I don't know how much people know about astrology, but everybody has a natal chart. Okay. When you were born and you took your first breath, you breathed in the planetary energy, and your soul DNA is kind of, you know, in a picture, in like a frozen frame. And, you know, we look at that and we see the lessons that you came to learn, and the karmic lessons that you've come to learn. And then, you know, as life goes on, we watch the planets will make angles to the planets when you were born. So when you're born, your sun has to be somewhere, and that's what people know mostly. So your sun is like your identity. It's who you came to be. It's your ego. And it's like a core part of yourself. And it can be paternal figures, but it's where your light is. It's where your vitality is. And so two planets that often cause depression, or, you know, are correlated with depression, are Saturn and Pluto, because, you know, your sun is your vitality. So if you have Pluto coming up to join your sun, or if you have Saturn coming up to join your sun, that is going to impact your vitality, your identity. And this can lead to depression. These are probably like the number one, you know, like when somebody is severely depressed, going through something, you know, you can look at the chart and say, oh yeah, I see it. You know what I mean? So if you have this going on in your chart, and Pluto, you know, the cardinal signs have had it kind of rough, like Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn specifically too, because Pluto's been there for a long time. But, you know, when we have, let's say we have Saturn come and it aspects our moon somehow. Well, Saturn is about restriction, and it's about rules, and it's going to dim your light a little bit. It's going to dim your vitality. You're not going to feel that great. And there's lessons there that you're supposed to learn, but they don't feel good because they're very restricting. They're restricting your identity. I do have a story, and I didn't really know too much astrology when this happened, but 14 years ago when I had my daughter, I had the worst pregnancy and then the worst postpartum depression, and it was horrible, right? So I had this beautiful baby, you know, I had a terrible, you know, I had everything that could go wrong, went wrong with my pregnancy. And then I finally had the baby. The baby was beautiful. She was gorgeous. And I was like ready to give her to somebody because I was like, couldn't deal with it. And little do I know, when I look back, Saturn was going into my first house, and it was conjunct my sun. And it took my vitality away, like to the point where I just wanted to lay in bed and do nothing because I was so depressed. And when this happened, somebody actually did kind of come along and sort of rescue me and say, you know what, I'm going to take that baby for you for a little bit. And I was able to sleep and stuff, because when Saturn is on your sun and your vitality is so low, it's like a miracle for you to get up out of bed and, you know, show up. You do what you can do when Saturn is making that hard aspect to your luminary, to your sun, because you just, you know, you have these hard lessons to learn, but these lessons usually last about a year, you know, and that's, I mean, you know, sometimes you can feel them a little longer when they, you know, when they make their approach, but, you know, that hard work I put in, I mean, she's fantastic now, you know what I mean? So all is good. And, you know, but at that moment I would just cry and cry and cry. And why can't I just be a natural mom? You know what I mean? Like there was all these things, and it was Saturn like teaching me to be disciplined. And, you know, it was, they were hard lessons to learn, but they were, and I was so depressed.
And the guilt doesn't help.
Yeah.
You know, the guilt doesn't help, like you said, but also having no end point. You know, so now you know this is a 1 year long transition.
Right, exactly. And I have Saturn opposite my sun coming up this year, and Uranus squaring it. So it's going to be a wild ride.
I just want to say this too. I want to play off of what you said about postpartum. So ladies, you know, if you had a baby and then you wondered, you know, why you had such depressive issues, you know, during the pregnancy, the birth, and after, from a psychic perspective, this is a major trigger for intuitive intelligence increase. And we can't ever reverse intuitive intelligence. So this is quite possibly not just the pregnancy, but then the birth also a major cause of the depression, not when it's biological, you know, like it wouldn't technically fit into a postpartum category. It's actually energy that you are now absorbing because you are more intuitive, you have leveled up. And it's the type of postpartum depression that never goes away. You have to learn to work with those new abilities. It's not all the same, but postpartum, birth, pregnancy, huge triggers.
Well, you know, and it's such a huge hormonal change in your body too. You're not the same after you give birth. So, you know, it is in a sense leveling up, you know, where you're going to have some energies there. But with Saturn, things are always karmic too. There's karmic lessons there. So she was, you know, like I have karma with her. So that's like a whole nother show. But, you know, it's one of these things that, like, you know, you can't avoid this. This is not really something that can be medicated away. You might be able to get like something to take the edge off of it, you know what I mean, to make you function, but you can't medicate this away. Like it's not going to go away with a therapist. You know what I mean? We also have the moon too. And the moon is like, you know, your comfort zone. It's your inner home and your outer home, your maternal figures and how you care for yourself. So how you know home and comfort, okay? So if you have a planet like Pluto come along, now all of a sudden, you know, your home is completely destroyed and you have to figure out what home means to you again. It's like you have to have a rebirth of home. You know, it could be anything from, you know, you're getting a divorce, or your home burned down in a fire, or there's something there that you have to, it destructs and then you have to rebuild it. And that is a very hard thing to go through. You know, and it could be anything relating to home, but you have to look at what's ugly. You have to dig really deep. And then Pluto kind of like makes everything that doesn't matter kind of fall away. And then you're looking at, you know, what you need to focus on. So in Pluto, when you have a, like say Pluto conjunct your moon, something like that, you are looking at going to hell and back. And it's like you're kind of just along for the ride with Pluto, because Pluto rules the underworld. So you are going to go to a hell, but there's a way out of that hell. You know what I mean? It's for a time period. And, you know, most of the time we get like 3 hits, 2 years. Sometimes it's extended. You know that because you had an extended one.
I had an extended one.
Yes, you were lucky like that.
I got a double hit. Still in it. It's remarkable. Pluto's bad news.
But you will see the rewards later. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you will see once you rebuild everything, you know, like, and you're kind of in the, like, you can see the light is in the tunnel right now for you. You know what I mean? So, you know, you're kind of through the really harsh stuff, but it's destructive and, you know, it can destruct your life. And you have to realize that whatever you're building is going to be better. It's going to be, you know, like that no longer served you. So now you have to move into something that's better. And there was no choice there. It's just, it had to be. So even though, you know,
I get charts done with Christina because first of all, you know, she and I agree a lot on there's destiny charted. There are things that are predicted that are going to happen, but it is up to your free will what you do with it.
Yes.
And we want to maximize everything, even things like Saturn transits, Pluto hits, things like this, even if it is a guarantee that your life is going to be basically wiped out and burnt down, you're going to have to rebuild. You need to be that phoenix from the ashes. You can't just lay down and take a nap.
And if you decide, okay, well, you know what, life is throwing this at me, so I'm going to go do some really low level, low energy, bad stuff, evil stuff. Yeah. Now that is really going to get you in trouble because when you have these transits, you have to make sure that you are completely and totally 100% ethical. And you really have to, and it's almost like fighting the devil himself because you don't want to be. You are being pulled into that evil. You know what I mean? You're being asked to go that way and you can't really fight Pluto. So you have to sort of, you have to surrender what you can.
And we're talking, you know, suicide, we're talking violence, we're talking cheating, we're talking, you know, talk about self-destruction that's going to make you even more depressed. Yeah. You know, it really is because hurting others or doing something unethical, really, it's just hurting your own self.
And that will come back right to you. It will come back full force. And that is not something that you want. So,
and what was meant to be a transition then becomes a lifelong punishment.
Yeah, karmic, you know, and Pluto's karmic as well as Saturn. So you have to be really careful that you are ethical during these times or as ethical as you possibly can be, because that will come back to you. But these are transits that they have an endpoint. So even when I was going through a tough Pluto transit, I could say, well, okay, I know when the times are going to be super intense. And then I know when I'm going to like see the light in the tunnel, you know, I'm going to, you know, be able to see myself out of it. So you know that there's an end point. And, you know, when you're talking about suicide and things like that, if you don't see an end point, that's when you feel like, well, what's the point? But there is a point. You just have to get through that hard, you know, those few moments, those, you know, the triggers that really get you. And then when you finally are out, you can look back and say, wow, that was really bad, but my struggle is my strength. You know, like I survived that. I'm like a warrior, you know?
Amen. I mean, literally, especially, with that Pluto one too. And it really is, even though it may be 2 years and 5 hits, or maybe a year and a half and 3 hits or whatever, you know, you really do start to see it more toward the end, but the beginning, the middle, absolutely brutal. I mean, it, even as a psychic and a medium, like going through it my own self, it threw me through a loop. And we're talking about pain. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what it really comes down to. Depression is pain.
Trauma and pain.
Trauma. And we have a free mini class coming up called Pain, right? And where we're going to break this down more. Maybe we could bring Christina back on for that. But, you know, when we're not just talking about someone who quit, or, you know, people will say, oh, well, so-and-so gave up, you know, they couldn't handle it. They just threw in the towel and committed suicide. We're really probably looking at someone who had such an intense, long-standing pain and burden that they had to carry that they literally just could not do it anymore. And a lot of people commit suicide and things like this, give in and become isolated and whatnot, because they don't want to spread their toxicity. They don't want to spread their negativity. They don't feel that they're a pleasure to be around anymore. And so it just feeds the problem. We must know when these end results are coming in, when the planet is about to move and get the hell out of the way, so life can continue. But I do want to say, when I get charts done with Christina, I always do like a work chart per year. So I have written in my day planner all the major planetary hits where I know I can maximize my prosperity with my businesses. But I, through this Pluto transit, which was as brutal as she says it is, very, very hard, she could show me all the hits. So I knew when all 5 of my hits were going to be. And I'm telling you, chaos. Chaos right before, during, and maybe like a day or two after. But I was prepared. So I am just so grateful I didn't have to go that alone, because even utilizing psychic, mediumistic, and empathic abilities, it really just wasn't enough. I needed to understand the astrology. I had to. I would have lost my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to hell and then coming out of it. So you have to be able to look at the bigger picture in order, if you can't see your way out and you feel trapped, that's when you're in trouble. You know what I mean? So if you can see the bigger picture, it's not easy, but it's just a little bit, it just gives you that little bit of hope that you need. And sometimes all you need is that little bit of hope to get you through.
Yeah. And I noticed when you did my chart where you were talking about Pluto a lot, you would also say like when there was going to be some relief from the pain. So one of the other things, that a good astrologer like Christina is able to do, because she's always looking at the free will, she's always looking on the bright side, she's always looking at those healing elements. She's able to say to you, this is going to be an interesting year, and then she's able to say, let's look at these dates, but also let's look at the other planetary movements that are going to help you take a breath. Where can you catch yourself up? Where can you really absorb some of that, soak up some of that positive energy and recoup to get back out there for the fight? And that is tremendously helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just, and there are more, but I think the moon and the sun are the most critical for depression, especially the moon, because if Pluto comes along, we can't get comfortable now. Now we're not at ease with ourselves. We can't feel at home anywhere, or Saturn on your moon. All of a sudden, our home is restricted, or, you're feeling trapped, or, it's just, it's an uncomfortableness that you're having to live with. And it's throwing you off and you don't understand why. So just knowing all these things, like, astrologers have to go to mediums and mediums have to go to astrologers, because it's subjective. We can't always be objective. So.
And also, isn't Saturn a restriction on like your blessings and your prosperity? So isn't that like you work 10 times as hard to get less than like a quarter of the benefits?
Yes. And the benefits come later with Saturn. So like if you do the hard work, then all of a sudden, once Saturn has cleared, gone into the next house, you're reaping the benefits and you're like, I'm so glad I stuck with this. And I'm so glad I didn't give up. I'm so glad that I learned the lesson that I was supposed to. Like Saturn is pointing you in a direction. You have lessons to learn. If you're not going to learn them, that's going to backfire on you. Right. So, like I said, when Saturn's like on your luminary, sometimes it's all you can do just to show up for the day. But, you gotta hang in there. You gotta stay ethical, because if you don't, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah. And for those of you who thought that you were divinely guided, you felt intuitively you were supposed to launch that new business, or you felt you were supposed to switch up your career, or you were supposed to leave your spouse, or you were supposed to do this or that. And then all of a sudden, the blessings and things just are not coming in, and it doesn't logically match up with the effort that you're putting in. Why might that happen? It could be a Saturn transit, just like Christina was saying about the baby. She had postpartum, she had a Saturn, she thought, it was all that, it was a Saturn transit, and it was restrictive. It was restrictive. But look at her daughter now, this incredible, is this the dancer?
It's the 14-year-old.
The 14-year-old, the lacrosse player. Okay. Like this brilliant girl. I mean, it just ends up all working out in the end if you don't throw in the towel. you know?
Yeah.
So just because, you know, you're feeling depressed or like you made the wrong decision. And this is a problem I see with a ton of my clients. I know you do too, Christina, where they zig and they zag and they don't have follow through on anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's because sometimes there is a planet restricting the benefits, the blessings, the prosperity, but you got to stay the long haul if you know you were meant to be there.
And also too, like especially Pluto can play with your mental health, you know, so your thoughts, you have to really be careful of your thoughts. You have to sort of, and especially when you're having a Pluto transit, you have to make sure you're saging yourself, clearing your energy out, clearing, you know, and because, you know, Pluto can be that there's always a shadow side. There's a light side and a shadow side. So Pluto's light side is empowerment and wealth. And the shadow side is, you know, it's that hell, it's that evil. So you have to constantly clear your energy to get from that low vibration, you know, the trauma, the betrayal, the whatever it is, you know, and, if you don't, you know, that's when the, you know, like you talked about attachments and things like that can get in there. And that can really mess up your mind. So
yeah, it was almost like I noticed that with my Pluto transit, and I actually contacted you about it, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago or so. And we were talking about it in terms of almost like the angel and the devil on your shoulder. Even if you've never experienced this in your life, you quite literally feel like something negative is trying to control your brain. Yeah. And it's like, no, here's the normal, healthy me. And then here's this toxicity. And I will say during my Pluto transit the last couple of years, I have had to regularly cleanse my house. And I have got this down to a science from doing this kind of work all these years where I don't have to worry about paranormal issues in my house, but it is taking over and coming from somewhere. And even when I would cleanse and I would get everything in order, I would get attacked at night periodically throughout this Pluto transit. And I would have to start all over again with the basics of protection.
And you just have to constantly do it and clear out your energy because Pluto's obsession, you become obsessed. So, you know, one trick that I did learn with a Pluto transit is that like allow yourself like an hour to obsess. You know, not do anything wrong, but you know, give yourself an hour just to obsess on that one thing you want to obsess on. If it's not, you know, if it's not the greatest thing. And then move on and move your energy and go about your day. And then like, you know what I mean? Like if it's just, I don't know, maybe it's like Facebook or something. I don't know, if it's a person, you know, and you're just, I don't know, but, you know, don't do anything that's not ethical, but allow yourself a little bit of obsession and then, you know, get on with yourself and get on with your day.
Good.
So try to learn the
stalk your ex for 1 hour.
Just for an hour.
You get to obsess over your job. You get to worry about the kids. You get to panic. 1 hour. I like that. Let it out.
Yes. But, you know, like, and that's the thing you gotta, you know, whether it be like, you know, you go take boxing or you have to do something with this energy. So you have to transform. Pluto is demanding that you transform. And transforming is not easy. It's not fun. But we have to do it. So you have to think about how can I empower myself through this transit? How am I making myself better?
And those are such powerful words. Just even giving yourself the permission to obsess for an hour says, no, I'm not giving more power to this thing than what it deserves. You know, I'm not going to suppress and try to act like it's something bigger than what it is. No, I'm just going to, you know, observe it and let go and keep putting that energy back out in a positive way the other 23 hours of the day, you know?
And it's like, yeah, because Pluto is just so overwhelming, you know, it is just, it controls you if you let it. And, you know, you just have to do your best and then give the rest to the higher power. And, you know, and then, you know, you'll see the lesson down the road. It might not be clear right now, but you just have to see like the next step. You don't have to see the whole staircase. So.
Love that. So true. And we do have another free mini class coming up. We're going to get to your questions and comments right now. We have another free mini class coming up called Stay in Your Lane, where we're going to break down, you know, I talked about it at the beginning of this class, taking on too much responsibility, you know, not focusing on what you should be, trying to manipulate too much. And what Christina's talking about here, you know, you have to understand, and I would expect both transits, Saturn and Pluto, to really put that into perspective for you, where you're out of bounds. you have to really conserve your energy and be careful about what you're doing. And that is part of the ethical code of conduct, even though people don't like to think of it that way. So it's a major wake up call, and we just need to see these things as opportunities in life transition, even though it is suicidal, paranormal, severe depression, a lot of restriction in every way. It just can really mess with your head. It is temporary. This is good to know. We have questions and comments coming in.
So I just want to say that for anybody who's looking to get their charts done, there is a link to Christina's website in the description. So if you were looking to get your chart, you can just click in there. And Bernadette had mentioned that she is not exactly sure what a chart is. Christina could kind of run through what a chart is and chart reading.
I have a YouTube channel too, so I think I have a video on there that explains.
All right, I'll throw that in the description.
Thank you.
What is your YouTube channel again?
Christina Del Rey, Astrology Simplified.
Christina Del Rey, Astrology Simplified. Okay, but yeah, Paul.
It is in the description along with your website. So anybody who's looking to read up on that, they're both in there.
But I will say this too, Christina offers different kinds of charts, so even if you are like launching your own business or you're looking for a boost to that, you're debating on what to do with your career, like that would be one thing. The personalized charts really help a lot though. Where we're talking about like Saturn, Pluto transits, having an understanding of, I guess, your overall life chart, but also like I like to do with her yearlies, just so I know, if anything's going to be coming up or how I can maximize.
Right.
But she offers all different kinds of things on there. So very cool. We have another question, comment?
Bernadette said that she studied the 8 levels of intelligence. And intuitive intelligence and psychic intelligence are not even mentioned.
Nope. And when we do the personality tests and things like that, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you this, are you that? Really no category for any of this. Very confusing. It's hard to know. It's hard to know what you really have going on when it's never discussed.
Yeah, and that stuff is in our DNA. Like, like it's in there. Like we carry that, like you said. So
yeah.
Just because the church outlawed it, that's why we don't learn about it.
It's the church. And it's, in the Old Testament of the Bible, we had training manuals for prophets, for mediums in the books of Solomon, and those were removed. And when those were removed and hidden, we have like one English version that carries some of it, but it's so chopped up. Well, then they were able to write the New Testament and put psychics and prophets, healers in with devil worshipers and rapists and murderers. It's not.
Well, astrology too, because astrology, you used to be an astrologer and a scientist and somebody biblical. It was all one before, and then it separated. So, like the first author of the first astrology book is Ptolemy. So it's there in the history.
Amen.
It needs to come back. I think when Pluto finally goes into Aquarius, 2023, I think next year is more hopeful for us too. Not to say that like it's not going to be hard next year, but I feel like astrology, mediumship, psychic abilities, that needs to, in the Aquarian age, that needs to come out, and we need to be embracing that, because we're going to be more about equality, and we're going to be more about, our abilities and how to protect ourselves.
I'm so excited. We'll be talking about more of this too. And the December 29th, you and I are doing a New Year's show.
Yes. Yeah.
Christina and I like to give horoscopes and readings and compare notes. We always have the same exact thing without ever talking to each other. So I'm going to do the yearly horoscopes. She's going to do the yearly horoscopes. And we're going to take a big old nap. Sure. But we're both going to do them, read them off to you guys, and then talk about, Christina will be talking about the upcoming astrology for 2021. So let's talk more about that. The healing energies, people get in touch with their intuition. That's so exciting to hear.
Yeah, because people are stepping away from the church. And they're looking for something that is more authentic to them. That's something that evolves and is more authentic. So, I think that it's within the, when we have Jupiter and Saturn are going to go into Aquarius. I think that this is going to give us an opportunity.
Yeah. And I think, we're seeing something like 67% of the younger generations turning toward mediumship and astrology and tarot, then the church, then their parents' church, then their grandparents' church, because they just want truth.
Yeah.
And you're getting truth, you're getting healing. So I'm so psyched to see what this upcoming year brings. We have another question or comment? We are good. Okay. So we can wrap this one up. Christina, is there anything else you would say to everybody about handling their depression from a planetary aspect before we go?
I would say that, I do have a video. I would say I should really do another one, but every planet has a light and a dark. So if you know the light and dark, you can push yourself toward the light. And when you push yourself toward the light, that is going to be karmic and come back to you. So, you be aware of your thoughts, be aware of what you're thinking, and try to cleanse them, and, take these classes that you're offering. I know I'm going to tune into that leveling up devil one that you just talked about, because that is key. But people don't realize how you get pushed down when you're trying to level up, and it comes into a form of depression. And like you said, people give up, and you should not, because you're here to learn these things and get through them and prosper in the long run. So
that's the Fighting the Dark video that's already up, but I'll be redoing it.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm just going to say in conclusion that, we didn't come to Earth alone. And one of the most isolating things, a big trigger for depression, is that feeling of being on an island and that nobody cares, or that there's no help, or that no one understands. And it's not enough to just understand the astrology and what's happening. It's not enough to tap in and understand your psychic abilities, your empathic abilities. You need to also understand that you came to Earth with 2 angels appointed to you, a set of 5 guides. Your ancestors have not left. The universe is trying to work with you, but you have got to get up and learn the system within which everything operates. There is a method to this madness. Okay.
We're not here for no reason. We are
not here for no reason. Right. No. There's order in this chaos. There is. All right. And it's actually quite predictable. So that's nice to know. Thank God for this. Right. So we can maximize our prosperity, health, and eventually heal and help others. The bigger picture thinking. All right. So I am so glad that you guys were able to tune in. I hope TikTok kept going. I'll figure that out. It was our first time doing a class on here. And thanks for everyone here on YouTube. Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Spirit. And thank you, Christina Del Rey. We look forward to having you on again for the New Year's show, which is going to be December 29th. And then Christina and I will be doing another show together on some transits. Did we pick a date?
Yeah, December 3rd.
December 3rd. And what is that upcoming class?
That I think was the Great Purge. Were we doing that on my show?
The Great Purge. Okay, so we'll be on Christina's channel for another upcoming class. So follow me on Facebook for updates on that at Ivy Angela Rivera. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great night.